Welcome to Echo Chamber, Series 1, Narratives of the Selves, Part 5. And in this last video, we're going to be concluding why and how to change the stories we tell ourselves. Videos 2, 3, and 4 highlighted the 3 strategies that I've broken down in this 5-part series. So to recap, that was changing action, using music, and using religious scriptures. Strategies have come from the research that I conducted through ethnographic study. That was through interviews, observations, and surveys with students. This was very enlightening because it showed us how young people, how young minds can also get stuck in cycles of negativity from a very early age. And it also shows us how they were grappling to overcome these difficulties, but through random ways, essentially, because they were young and they were inexperienced and they didn't know what to do. But even in this kind of haziness of strategy, creative strategy, they still came up with creative ways of trying to regain control over themselves, trying to regain control over their minds, their attitudes, their feelings, their thoughts, their behaviors, and ultimately their lives. So in order to change how you think about yourself, you have to physically change what you do. In the context of education, if you fail a lot, if you don't get praise for your work, if you don't get good grades, and if it's unlikely that you'll be able to access the courses that you wish to access because you don't have the academic credentials or the academic history to prove that you should be allowed to enroll in particular courses, changing your action is one of the best things you can do. So students started becoming more interested in their education, in understanding what was going on, in understanding what was required of them, and in understanding why they weren't achieving particular benchmarks. And in doing so, they were also changing how they thought and felt about themselves, because they were becoming more self-controlled, they were becoming more empowered, and they were learning how to do things, which meant that any negative narrative of incompetence, of ignorance, of not knowing was slowly diminishing, slowly disappearing away, and slowly dwindling. So that's why changing actions matters. Now this is all bite-sized, so that is doing their homework every day, that is asking questions in a non-confrontational way to their teachers, actually putting in the work before approaching their teachers, and understanding, for instance, why if after weeks of teaching you suddenly ask your teacher why they didn't explain something properly or why they didn't teach something, why it resulted in conflict. It was also to do with making them more independent, making them more responsible for themselves. And this made them feel powerful. This showed them that they had choice and that they often chose what to do or not do, and that they often chose how much they engaged or not engaged. And once they realized this, they were once again able to take control of their own narratives, of what kind of students they were, what kind of students they wanted to be, and how they could get there. So that's the power of action and how it can definitely change thoughts. At the same time as changing actions, which was a long term, takes a semester, so it takes 2 semesters, takes an entire academic year, and ever more. Some of them used music. Music wasn't to escape into, to stop relating to other people. This music actually allowed them to release their angst, release their anger, release their frustration, release their fears, because the music reflected that back on them, which meant that they didn't need to spend time and energy reflecting it themselves. This was freeing. This enabled them to feel better. This enabled them to think better. This enabled them to think faster, to learn, basically. And students that didn't use music used religious scriptures. So they listened to this because they needed to feel a greater sense of purpose, not in themselves, but in what they were doing. And religion, something that they strongly identified with, something that they strongly felt was a constant in their lives, God, for instance, being by their side, helped them get through very difficult times emotionally, physically, academically, and socially with others around them. It reframed their thoughts, it reframed how they saw the world, how they saw what they were doing, and there was a sense of permanence and connection to everything, which once again is very, very important if you're being asked to work very hard, harder than you've ever worked in your life, and you don't know why, you don't know what for, and you can't see it. So having that sense of connectedness to the world and purpose, longevity, meant a lot to some students, and this was very empowering and enabled them to reverse negative identities, negative ideologies, worthlessness, uselessness, pariah status on the fringe of society. It enabled them to change all of that. Hopefully it will enable you as well. Thank you so much for listening, and this ends this series. Please subscribe, please comment and share. Thank you.